So, Willie, this week we're going to kick things off with John Mayer. Now, recently we just put out our top 10 John Mayer songs on Blues Rock Review. And for some reason, John Mayer is a very polarizing figure in music. A lot of people have different opinions on John Mayer and his music. You know, he is known as a pop act, but he does have blues influences. So, what are your thoughts on John Mayer, and why do you think he's so polarizing with music fans?
I think it's because he dances in two different sides of music that oftentimes sort of resent each other. Maybe resent is too strong of a word, so I'll dial that back a bit.
I don't know. I think you might be right there.
There's a little bit of resentment. I feel that you mentioned we're talking here mostly, and certainly he dabbles in more than just pop and blues. He's also a pretty solid jazz aficionado as well. But if we just talk pop and blues, I think there are people on the pop side of things that take a look at some of these blues snobs, for lack of a better term. I mean,
Blues
once
Police.
again, yeah, a little bit. And I think on the blues side, people take a look and say, oh, he's just selling out for the popular masses to get onto the radio. I think there's a little bit of that. I think, to his credit, I think he is able to do both of them equally well. I think that that's a feather in his cap. I think a lot of this stems from when we go back to John Mayer's beginnings. And when we say beginnings now, we're talking almost 20 years.
Yeah.
We're talking, I think his first big one is Inside Wants Out, and then follows it up with Room for Squares. Those were fantastically popular on the radio. He was the talk of the town. But what they don't really get deep into is how his original reasons and some of his influences for getting into music were the blues. And it's not that far after that that he is sort of backing into that blues spectrum, maybe not really accidentally even, but he's playing with Eric Clapton. He's playing with Buddy Guy. This isn't something new. I think the polarization is, I think both sides a little bit in a way want to have them for themselves, and they don't like it when he sort of plays with the other kids on the playground. I don't know, Pete. I mean, I'm not grasping at straws here. I find it hard that there's this animosity between the sides, but I think it exists. Do you agree, or am I
No, I definitely agree. And it's interesting because back in the day when John Mayer was starting to come out, you know, I wasn't really listening to his music. And to be honest, I never really gave him a chance.
Okay.
You know, I think all of us, or not all of us, but a lot of us go through a period of our lives with music where we're kind of music snobs.
Yeah.
And we kind of discount certain people or acts, or maybe not even give them a chance to be like, oh, well, they're a pop act, so forget about them. I'm not going to listen to them. I kind of felt that way about John Mayer back in the day. I never really gave him a fair shake, you know, when I was younger, when I was a teenager. I never really listened to his music. I'm like, oh, he's just a pop act, whatever. I'm not going to listen to him. But in recent years, I started to kind of dive into his music and listen to his music. And guess what? The guy writes really good stuff.
Right.
And he's very talented. I love his Continuum album. I think that was fantastic. That's a very bluesy influenced album. Search for Everything, In the Blood, which is from that album. Awesome song. I think that's just a great song. That was probably one of my favorite songs that year. So yeah, I think John Mayer's great. And I think it is really kind of that factor where a lot of people just maybe write him off and just don't even really dive in and give him a chance. But when you listen to his music, I don't think he's really sacrificing a lot of artistic integrity to get his music out there and get his music played, because I think he's still writing good music without sacrificing a whole lot. And you know what? The guy's really, really popular, and hats off to him. I think he does good stuff.
Once again, I think that's the key. Hats off to him. You're right. I'm 100% with you, Pete. He doesn't sacrifice anything. He's not a guy who's jumping from here to there just so he can increase his audience. He's jumping from here to there because he can do it, because he loves it. My final bit of convincing as a John Mayer fan came just a couple of years back through the avenue of the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead said they were done finally. They did a big tour with Trey Anastasio taking the place, if you can say that, of Jerry Garcia. Shortly after that, the Dead & Co. reformed a couple of the original members, and they, of all people, chose John Mayer. With all my friends who are Grateful Dead fans, I think the immediate response is, you've got to be kidding me. Fast forward 2 years ahead of time after he's played the shows, and the reviews were mostly where, my gosh, John Mayer did an incredible job. And once again, they sacrificed nothing, and he filled the role excellently. So if you can convince the Deadhead crowd and that family, once again, this is not a problem of John Mayer. I think, if anything, audiences should be a little more open-minded. I'm not trying to sound cheesy, but I think it's true here.
Yeah, I agree.